Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's my 16th reflection video, and today we're going to talk about sympathy and empathy, my journey with understanding them both, where they apply, what I've learned, mistakes I've made, and advice, obviously, about these two things. Now, to start, I want to say that sympathy and empathy are essentially the same thing, but once you know and you've experienced or you've done some reading about the two, you will realize the fine line between the two. And it's not a big deal or anything. It's just something to note when you talk about sympathy and empathy. And just a little definition, separation. I like to think, or technically the definition between the two, sympathy is just acknowledging someone's feelings, acknowledging, what they're going through, what they think, what they feel, their state of being is acknowledging it. Example, when someone loses a family member, has a hard breakup, loses their job, I'm sorry that's happening to you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. You have my condolences. It's nice to say. Some people need to hear that. They want to hear that. But then we also know that sometimes that's empty. Just saying, I'm sorry, I wish you didn't go through that. I'm sorry you're going through that. Sometimes that's very empty. Now, when you have empathy and you're empathizing, it's deeper. It's like, well, I'm sorry that that's happened to you. Is there anything I can do? If you need anything, I'm here. Well, how do you feel right now? What led up to this? Asking more questions and trying to get deeper into understanding what they're going through, what they're thinking, how they feel, their state of being. It's putting yourself in their shoes. Sympathy is just feeling. Empathy is putting yourself in their shoes. That's really how I separate them. And if you look at the definitions, you get on Merriam-Webster dictionary or Google or something, you're going to have different breakdowns, but literally that's really all it is. So for me to get into it, I'm not saying that I didn't grow up with no support or nobody cared about me or nobody cared about my feelings all the time. I'm not saying that 100%, but it was definitely there. And all I could say for myself for sure is from the inside out, I did not feel like I had a safe place to always talk about how I felt because I always felt misunderstood when I did. And because of those moments, it shuts you down, and it made me, as well as you who may have experienced this, it makes you shut down. It makes you continuously feel like, hey, they're not going to care about how I feel. They can't imagine. They don't know, whatnot. But as a kid, as a teenager, and as a young adult, if you don't know any better, you're going to think that no one understands you. No one gets it. No one knows how you feel. But hey, billions of humans have had many feelings that are similar to yours. So you're not alone and you're not special. Sorry to say it like that, but that's what you got to wake up and realize when you in your bag about how you feel, what you're going through, and what you experiencing. Before you cut everyone off and get angry at everyone, thinking they don't know how you feel. There's no one in the world who feels like you do. You're wrong. Did you give anybody an opportunity to know how you feel? Did you give anybody an opportunity to have a piece of your mind? If so, then we'll move to the next part. But if not, you technically can't keep complaining. So as I grew older, obviously I met other kids, met people, been to different cities, do things, had different jobs, talked to different people, watch documentaries, interviews, podcasts, hear other people's stories, and then you wake up and you realize other people can speak to you and understand how you feel, literally because they've experienced it or because they know someone who's experienced. They watched other people and they can empathize and they can speak to you and accept how you feel and identify with you. Now, if you have been talking about it and it just hasn't been going anywhere growing up or even now as an adult, you might not be looking in the right places. It might not be there, or you need to stop trying to be validated for how you feel. Now, it's a tough thing, right? When you grow up and you don't have family and friends or counselors, teachers, mentors, whoever on a consistent basis to talk about how you really feel, because we're human, we're not robots. Despite how some people pretend, we all want to be validated. We all want someone to sympathize with us and empathize with us when we go through things, right? And it makes it difficult when you don't get that, and then people are expecting you to feel sorry for them when you never had nobody feel sorry for you. And it's tough. And I grew up like that, and I stayed like that, you know, pretty much all the way through my teenage years until I exited high school. You know, for the most part, I felt like that. But in between the little moments and then overall till now, I start to realize, like, yo, people can be there for you, you know, and talking to other people can do a lot. And you can't expect people to feel bad for you when you don't feel bad for them, you know. And it's selfish to think that people are supposed to feel bad for you, but you don't put yourself in no one else's shoes and feel bad for them, you know. It's selfish. It's selfish. It really is. And I say that to get to this next point is that, man, some people, one thing about sympathy and empathy that we gotta discuss, because I've gotten myself in some tough situations and still dealing with some situations because I felt too much empathy and too much sympathy. We have to learn, I've learned, but you have to learn if you don't, or just remind yourself that sometimes too much sympathy and empathy is bad. Too much of anything is bad. It's never wrong to feel sorry for somebody, to put yourself in their shoes, to acknowledge what they've been through. It's never wrong to do that. However, when you do it too much, you open yourself up for manipulation. You open yourself up to feel more guilt, more shame. You know, you become an enabler of sorts at times because you feel too much empathy and too much sympathy. We have to learn at times, again and again, to stop feeling too bad for certain people, because certain people take complete advantage of how you feel. Once they realize that you keep feeling bad for them, you keep feeling sorry for them, you give your ear, you give your attention, you give your energy, you give your time, they're gonna keep taking it. But are they giving it back to you when you need them to empathize and sympathize with you? Are they giving it back to you? And does it feel real? Does it feel real and does it feel right? That's what I was gonna say, sorry. Right? Does it feel real? Does it feel genuine? Does it feel right? You know, when they trying to give it back to you, or even if they really are, is it processing correctly? And if it is or isn't, you know, if it is, it's good. And if it isn't, you know, question it, right? And I have to say that because right now there's a lot going on with me and some of my social situations, be that family, friends, otherwise. You know, sometimes feeling too much empathy and sympathy is not good. And I'm gonna leave that there. So obviously, as you go out here and you work, and you, especially if you work in customer service type things, or in like my case, I'm mentoring, I'm coaching, working for the school district, constantly interacting with young adults and kids, you gotta learn how to empathize and sympathize, because one, you're gonna hold yourself back in certain job scenarios because you can't sympathize or empathize. And, you know, you may not succeed because of that fact, or you may be held back because of the fact that you sympathize and empathize too much. You know, there's a balance and there's a lot to understand with that. And there's so many layers to that, but I just want to share my take with that. And it's been hard, like, trying to figure that out and navigate it, because I am a person who has felt a lot of guilt about a lot of things. You know, just because I live better than certain people, you know, I'm in better shape than certain people. I have a different mindset. I've seen things and realized, been places, learned things more than certain people, friends, family, co-workers, otherwise. And you can feel guilt about that or whatnot. But, you know, sometimes you got to take yourself out of their shoes and take your feelings off of them and realize they're doing it to themselves. And they keep doing it to themselves. And you can't keep feeling too much attachment to them. You can't, you know. And the reality is, to close this out, God, the universe, laws of karma, whatever you want to label it, the unseen, the observable, the unobservable, whatever, for us, knows how you really feel. And if you've been speaking well and you mean well to someone, if you have sympathy and empathy within your heart, it's counted for, it's known. Certain people realize it, certain people don't. And long as you know you have the ability to feel for someone, to sympathize for someone or something, you know, that's all you need to know. You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore after a certain amount of time. And that's all that there is.